An old woman and her son lived by the sea. Every morning she would throw a loaf of bread into the water. One day she said to her son, "I'm getting old, and I feel I'll die soon. Promise me you'll continue to throw a loaf of bread into the sea every morning." After his mother passed away, the son kept his promise. One evening as he returned home from work, he was surprised to find the house clean and tidy. Another day he left some raw meat in the cupboard, and when he came home, he found it cooked with the table set for dinner. This happened several times. Curious, the young man decided to hide under the stairs one day. Suddenly he heard a splash in the sea, and a large fish flopped onto his doorstep. To his amazement, the fish's skin fell away, revealing a beautiful young woman. She began to clean the house and cook. Just as she was about to leave, the young man grabbed her. "Mother, mother, help me!" the girl cried out. A voice from the sea replied, "Don't be afraid, daughter, that's my son-in-law." With the blessing of the sea and the girl's mother, the young man and the mysterious maiden were married. They quickly called for a priest to perform the ceremony and celebrated their wedding for 7 days. One day, as the bride sat by the window sewing, the prince of the land happened to be walking in his seaside orchard. He caught sight of her and was instantly captivated by her beauty. Upon learning she was married, the prince hatched a plan to get rid of her husband so he could marry her himself. The prince summoned the young man and said, "I want you to make me a tent so large that it can house my entire army with half of it still empty. You have 3 days to complete this task. If you fail, I'll have your head cut off and confiscate all your property." The young man returned home, his face etched with worry. His wife noticed and asked, "What's wrong, husband? Why do you look so sad today?" "It's nothing," he sighed. "No, something's clearly bothering you," she insisted. "Please tell me what's wrong." Reluctantly, he explained the prince's impossible demand. "Don't worry," his wife reassured him. She then leaned out the window towards the sea and called out, "Mother, mother, can you send us our small tent, please? We want to go camping." Suddenly, a small tent was thrown up from the sea. The young man took it to the prince, whose servants spent 7 days setting it up. Amazingly, it accommodated not only the prince's entire army but all his subjects as well, with half of it still empty. The prince, though impressed, wasn't finished. He said, "This is well done, but there's no furniture. I want you to bring me a rug that fits this tent exactly. You have 3 days, or I'll have your head." Once again the young man told his wife, who simply asked her mother for their small rug. When he presented it to the prince, it fit perfectly. The next day the prince made another demand. "Bring me a cluster of grapes so large that my entire army can eat from it and still not finish it." The young man's wife once more came to his rescue, and the following day he delivered the enormous grape cluster to the prince. Growing frustrated, the prince made one final impossible request. "Bring me a 3-day-old baby who can walk and talk like an adult. You have 3 days." This time the young man was truly dismayed. He thought, "This is impossible. I'm surely going to lose my head now." His wife, however, remained calm. "Don't worry about that, husband," she said in the evening. Turning towards the sea, she called out, "Mother, can you send up the baby for a while? We want to see him." Miraculously, a baby appeared from the sea. The young man took the infant to the prince, still doubting whether it could fulfill the prince's requirements. On the way, the man stumbled, jostling the baby. To his astonishment, the baby spoke, "Watch where you're going, brother-in-law. Are you trying to fall and crush me?" The young man was relieved, realizing his life would be spared after all. When they reached the prince, the baby walked right up to him, jumped onto his lap, and gave him a sharp slap on the cheek. "Aren't you ashamed of yourself, prince?" the baby scolded. "Why are you causing so much trouble for my brother-in-law? You're trying to kill him so you can marry my sister, aren't you? Shame on you, prince." Shocked and embarrassed, the prince immediately abandoned his evil plans. He apologized to the young man and begged for forgiveness. From that day on, the prince left the young man and his sea bride in peace. They continued to live happily by the seashore, undisturbed by further schemes or impossible tasks.